Hello, this is Jennifer Hummel doing our read log for the week. The book that I chose from the Robert Seibert Awards was, On Girl Dreaming by Jacqueline Woodson. This book was copyrighted in 2014. It is a nonfiction poetry kind of memoir book. It has approximately 320 pages and it is appropriate for ages 9 through 11 or grades 3 through 5. In this book, the main character is Jacqueline Woodson, who is a young African American girl who lived during the civil rights period. Really, the only illustration on this book is here on the cover. As you can see, it's kind of a dull, soft blue, where you can see the clouds, and then for the horizon, kind of a pale, soft yellow, and then the ground is that brown color. And then, of course, a young girl with a book. It's kind of hard to see that book, but sorry, I can direct this. Is also blue. It's a silhouette of a girl, and I believe that has some relevance in this story simply because we are talking about an African American girl who lived during the civil rights movement when African Americans were thought to have no voice and had no place, and so it kind of gives kind of that the idea of silence that they believed that they had. And so, of course, in the book, or from the cover of the book, I don't know if you can kind of see the swirling and the butterflies. And in my opinion, I think that was created to show like her dreams and her thoughts during this time period. As far as the plot, it basically starts from the time that Jacqueline was born on February 12th of 19. Oh, good Lord, what was it? Sorry, let me peek again here real quick, guys. February 12th, 1963. And kind of goes through her life, talks about the first year of her life. She remembers going to South Carolina, to Greenville, South Carolina, to visit her mother's parents or grandparents, and how much her father hated it and the bigotry that kind of went on during that time frame with the racism and things of that nature and segregation. When she turned 1, her parents divorced, and she and her siblings and her mother went to live with her grandparents in South Carolina. And again, they faced, all of the protests and the racism and whatnot, and the segregation. And eventually, her mother moved back to New York to make a better life for them. And they stayed with her grandparents so she could kind of get things settled there. And when she came for them, she brought their baby brother Roman, which made Jacqueline jealous because she was no longer considered the baby. And from there, they moved up to New York. And Jacqueline didn't like it. She felt like it was kind of dark and gray and just kind of a gloomy atmosphere, I guess I should say. And they ended up moving for different reasons several times. One of them being the death of her aunt. Also, her brother Roman got very ill and ended up having to be in the hospital because he got lead poisoning from the paint in his bedroom. And he was there for quite some time. He eventually did come home, and Jacqueline was happy for that because then they were a family again. But was happy about that because then they were a family again. Then they also got word that their grandfather was very sick and went there to see him. The day that they did get there, he did pass, at which time their grandmother moved to be closer to Jacqueline and her mother and their family. But it's these memoirs, basically a book of poems. It just kind of shows they are poems, but they're kind of free verse poems is how they're kind of referred to. Sorry. Basically throughout her life, in this story. Um, the setting, there was multiple settings. First, their family or their life in Ohio, and then, their family life in South Carolina, and then, of course, then in New York, and kind of in her classroom, because she does talk about in the story her finally in fifth grade, her teacher refers to her as a writer, and this makes her very happy because, she's always strived to be really good, a good student like her sister Adela. So that was important. Um, and then the main theme, in my opinion, in this story is really the importance of family and the love that they share, the loyalty and whatnot within a family. And then, of course, the interaction in the story. The family were very close. They went above and beyond to do things for each other and help each other out. And and then of course, there was also then the interactions that you could kind of see, like with the segregation and the riots and the racism and whatnot. And there's a lot of anger and a lot of hatred during that time period as well. And so, as far as reading this book to students, I think this is a good book. Definitely, like it says, for older students, but definitely something that you can incorporate when you're in the social studies lesson referring to the civil rights movement or that time frame, just because it gives you accounts of a girl and how she viewed how things were during that time and what her life was like. And I think that sometimes if you use these types of books to teach those types of lessons, students can really relate to these children, and they have a better understanding of kind of the time frame and what was going on. So definitely something that I would use in the classroom. As far as for my activity, I would choose after we read the story, I would choose to have the students do a family tree, which I'll show you in here. Sorry, I can get to it at the beginning. All these pages now stick together. Sorry. Shows you kind of the family tree of the Woodson family. And so, because there was a reference of that in the beginning of this book, I would have the students talk to their parents and their other family members and create a family tree like this. And with that family tree, I would also have them write a little bit of a report or a memoir um, about what they learned about their heritage, about their ancestors and whatnot. And once we were done, we would hang this in the hall for the other students in the school to see and learn about our own students. Again, my book was Brown Girl Dreaming by Jackie